As we mentioned previously, in general, the errors may lie in the knowledge, in the reasoning, or in the architecture of an agent. And therefore, learning by correcting errors might be applicable to any one of those. However, in this lesson, we'll be focusing only on errors in knowledge. In fact, in particular, we'll be focusing on errors in classification knowledge. Classification, of course, is a topic that we have considered this class repeatedly. Let us consider an AI agent that has two examples of executing an action in the world. In the first experience, the agent views this object as a cup and gets the feedback this indeed was a cup. So this was a positive experience. This, on the other hand, is a negative example. Here the agent viewed this as a cup and got the feedback that this should not have been viewed as a cup. We can visualize the problem of identifying what knowledge element led the agent to incorrectly classify this as a cup as follows. This left circle here consists of all features that describe the positive example. The circle on the right consists of all features that describe the negative example. So features in this left circle might be things like this is a handle, there is a question mark, there is a blue interior, and so on. The circle on the right consists of features that characterize a negative example. It has a movable handle, it has a red interior, it has red and white markings on the outside. There are some features that characterize only the positive experience and not the negative experience. There are others that characterize only the negative experience and not the positive experience. There are also many features that characterize both the positive and the negative example. For example, they are both concave, they both have handles, and so on. In this example, it is these features that are especially important. We'll call them false suspicious features. We call them false suspicious features because first, they identify only the negative experience. Secondly, one or more of these features may be responsible for the fact that the agent classified this as a positive example when in fact it was a negative example. As an example, suppose that this feature corresponds to a movable handle. This is a false suspicious feature. It is false because this experience was false. It is suspicious because it does not characterize the positive experience. And thus, it may be one of the features responsible for the fact that this was a negative example. But now there is an additional problem. There are a number of false suspicious features here. So how would the agent decide which false suspicious feature to focus on? We have encountered this problem earlier when we were talking about incremental concept learning. At that point, we had said that we want to give examples in an order such that each succeeding example differs from the current concept definition in exactly one feature, so that the agent knows exactly what to focus its attention on. The same kind of problem occurs again. How might the agent know which feature to focus on? One possibility is that it could try one of the features at a time and see whether it will work. That is, it could select this feature, repeat the process, get more feedback, and either accept it or eliminate it. An alternative method is that the agent may receive not just two experiences, but many such experiences. So if there were other positive experiences that covered this part of the circle, that would leave only this as a false suspicious feature, and then the agent can focus its attention on this feature. As an example, just like this circle may correspond to a movable handle, this may correspond to a red interior because red interior is one of the features that characterizes the negative example and not the positive example. But later on, there might be another positive example that comes of a cup which had a red interior, in which case the agent can exclude this particular feature. Now, the inverse of this situation is also possible. Let us suppose that the agent decides that this is not a cup. Perhaps because its definition says that something with a blue interior is not a cup. And therefore, it doesn't bring water to you inside this cup and tells you there is no cup available in the kitchen. You go to the kitchen, you see it, and you say, well, this is the cup. Now the agent must learn why did it decide that this was not a cup. In this case, the relevant features are these three features. These are the three features that define this cup but do not define the other experiences. So this dot may correspond to a blue interior, this dot may correspond to a question mark on the exterior. We'll call these features true suspicious, just like we call them false suspicious. These are the features that prevented the agent from deciding that this was a positive example of a cup. One or more of these features may be responsible for the agent's failure to recognize that this was a cup.